Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to have this beautiful lady on the line right now. She's been a driving force out here in the community for a long time. She is the mayor of Atlanta. She goes by the name of Keisha Lance Bottoms. And I'm hearing some really amazing things about the future of your political career, and I'm hoping that's going from the streets' mouths to the universe's ears. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Nice to hear your voice.
There's so much to talk about. COVID-19, protests, crime. They saying you might even need to get your running shoes on, if you know what I mean.
That's right.
So let's start from the top. Georgia has been a battleground in this COVID-19 situation for a long time, and you were very adamant about not speeding up to open back up. But Governor Brian Kemp wanted to get back to business. How do you feel about the way everything played out?
Well, I'm not feeling good about it because I'm looking at the data every day. I'm looking at our numbers, like in the daily report, and what I'm seeing is alarming. I've not seen numbers like this probably since April. We are close to, I think yesterday's numbers, we were close to 24% increase in COVID cases over a week's time. Our ICU beds are at capacity in a lot of hospitals, filling up quickly across the city. And it's not good. I don't take any delight in saying I was right because I didn't want to be right about this. But everything that we thought would happen has happened. We opened up too soon. It was reckless. It was no regard to science and input from public health professionals. And now we're paying the price for it, especially in our black and brown communities.
Now, so do you find that it is difficult to even keep the city safe, the city of Atlanta safe? Like, as you said, since you and Governor Kemp are not agreeing?
Well, it's we've got a challenge in this city, and we have a challenge across this country. And the part I didn't mention, as I sit here, I'm positive for COVID. My husband is positive, and I have a child who's also positive. So I think what you're seeing in the streets is a horrible combination. You're seeing the frustration with COVID. People are sick. They are watching their loved ones die. You're seeing people out of work. People are responding to the injustices that they've seen with interactions with police officers, and it's a bad combination this summer. And we already have an uptick in crime during the summertime anyway. But that being said, I know we're going to get to the other side of this. We just got to be smart about it with COVID, and smart about it just in terms of how we're interacting with each other on our streets.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. This is Angie Anjum. I'm from the D.C. area, so we have Mayor Bowser, and you guys are you all have both been in the spotlight with regards to the Black Lives Matter movement and police brutality. And I've seen you at multiple press conferences where in one instance it's trying to get people to be peaceful at protests, then it's your police chief having to step down. How have you been balancing all of this between, responding? You had officers that called in and just didn't show up to work. How have you balanced all of this, and how do we get this ring it together a little bit? Because it seems like we're all on different sides, and you're kind of in the middle. You have to answer to everybody.
Yeah, I wake up every day and I just remind myself the grace of God is sufficient. And, this has been a rough few weeks personally and for our city. And one day I thought, well, the only people on this earth who were pleased with me, or the only beings, were my two puppies. Everybody was upset with me. But that's what it is,
Yeah.
That's what it's like. That's what it's like being a leader, and all we can do, and like Mayor Bowser, we make the best decisions that we know to make. And what I've said as it relates to our police officers, making people be held accountable individually doesn't mean that you are against police in general. It means that people have to be held accountable for their actions. And I know Mayor Bowser and so many other mayors across this country are balancing the same thing. There are days when it seems like absolutely nobody is satisfied and nobody is happy. But when you are leading, you can't always play into people who make you feel good and make you feel better about yourself. You just do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and that's what I get up and try and do each and every day.
Been hearing some great things about your political future. Word on the street is you're one of the potential front runners to be the vice president. When it's time for Joe Biden to really go for it. What's the word? Can you give us an exclusive?
Well, as my mother says, thank you for the rumor. And, with 330 million plus people in America, it's great to have my name mentioned in that light. But being mayor of Atlanta is more than a full-time job. And that's the job that I'm focused on right now. It's real hard to focus on the job that you don't have.
Well, let's talk about Joe Biden for a little bit. It seems like he's gotten a lot of negative backlash from the Black community. Some people, So what do you think about him as far as should we trust him as a people and why?
I think that we got to put all of that aside because so much of it is just propaganda and it's meant to discourage us. It's meant to have us stay at home in November in the same way so many people did in November of 2016. And the reality is this, we have an opportunity to elect somebody who has shown how much they value the Black community. This is a man, an older white man, who stood beside and behind a younger Black man as the president of the United States. You don't see that every day. So his 8 years of work alongside Barack Obama were some of the best years in our communities in terms of progressive policies. Was it a perfect 8 years? No. But has at any 8 years in any presidency been perfect? Absolutely not. But what I can say is that we made so many strides in our community, and he was right there leading the way. And so this notion that he somehow has failed the African-American community or is not up to our standards is absolutely ridiculous. And if we buy into this propaganda from the Russians and from Trump and everybody else who's stirring up this discontent in the African-American community under the guise of caring about us, we're going to have 4 more years of this president, and this country is going to be in even worse shape than it is today.
Mayor Lance Bottoms, speaking of leadership, we talk about leadership. President Trump is also pushing for schools to reopen and to bring students back into schools. What are your thoughts and how are you working on the plans that are being put in place for the back to school season? Where do you stand on that in regards to your leadership?
I just wish that President Trump would follow the science and the data. And my family is a prime example. One of my children was asymptomatic, absolutely no symptoms. And now my husband and I have tested positive. Thankfully, I've been asymptomatic, but my husband, who is in great health, was taken to his knees by this virus. And that is my concern, not just for our children, but when you're sending our kids back in the classrooms with teachers, with cafeteria workers, with custodians, you're putting them at risk. So in Atlanta, there's an independently elected school board and superintendent who makes that decision. They've delayed the opening going virtual for the first 9 weeks. I think that's smart to do because you can always reevaluate and bring kids back in, but you can't reevaluate when people lose their lives.
Right.
Well, Keisha Lance Bottoms, much love to you. We admire your strength. I mean, we've seen you do it all these last few months. We've seen you be vulnerable and talk about your family. We've seen you, with your chin up as people are protesting outside of your house, causing ruckus for no reasons. And even to stare, at the face of this COVID-19 situation and deal with it all with such grace, poise, and strong leadership and confidence. We love it all. Big ups to you. Congratulations on everything you've done up to this point and all the things you will continue to do. Thank you for pulling up on the Morning Hustle. One time, y'all, for Keisha Lance Bottoms.
We are the Morning Hustle.